Welcome to Aunty K's, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hello everyone and welcome to Aunty K's Tarot. I watched the tag More Than a Witch at Aquamarine 18's channel, and I thought that was pretty fun and a good way to get to know fellow tarot tubers. The tag is originally from Abby the Witch, and I have linked both of these videos in the description box. So we are going to jump into this tag. The first question is, what is your name and does it have a meaning? So on my channel, I am Aunty K's Tarot, and that is based on my birth name, which I go by, which is Krista Demore Flute. As a scoop survivor, my name was changed when I was scooped, and it was changed, and I don't use that name. An interesting story about coming to use my birth name over my scoop name. It was a long process, but as a child, I didn't know that my real name was Krista Suzanne. I just thought they were pretty names, and I named all my dolls variations of Krista and Suzanne, to the horror of my scoop mother, who would constantly question why those names, comment that they didn't like those names. I didn't understand why that was even important to them. And when I was 13, I found my adoption papers and discovered that that was my real name. And I was pretty angry. And my anger made my scoop mom burst into tears. So then I felt guilty about preferring my real name over the name I'd incurred through genocide. And so I was afraid to use it. But I used to tell people one day I'm going to go by my real name. And eventually I did. I was 40 by the time I went by my real name. Or about that age. I don't remember exactly. But the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, recognized that Indigenous children should have their names returned to them. So that was a recommendation for residential school survivors. The TRC mentioned scoop survivors, but really didn't dig into it because the government would prefer to deal with that in a few more decades. And so myself and some other scoop survivors were like, we deserve our real names back too. It doesn't matter if they're cultural or not. They were given to us by our families. So even though I don't have a culturally indigenous name, and it's still important and sacred to me because it came from my family, and it did have meaning. A lot of parents who lost children in the scoop would give their children the same name to help them find each other. And my birth sister and I did find each other because we were given the same name. Demore is the Cajun family name that I carry from my birth family, and Flute is the English version of a last name that my Lakota family was given. So they're important to me. 2, how old are you? I am 47. I'm a Gemini. So I guess I'm technically 47 and a half. Do you use astrology? I've put Western or Vedic. It said Western or Real Sky. I put Western or Vedic. That's what they're called. Yes, I use Western astrology. I used to work as an astrologist, and I did natal charts and I did synastry charts. What are my big 3? I'm a Gemini Sun, Leo Rising, and I am a Pisces moon. I also happen to have an Aries stellium in the 9th house. Did I grow up in a religious household? What religion, and did it impact did that influence my spiritual path? Of course it influenced my spiritual path. They tend to, for the better or the worse. Whether we follow our original spiritualities, it's part of that journey. Whether we follow the spiritualities we were raised in or not, they are parts of our journeys. So I was scooped to a white, what would now be called alt-right, evangelical family. It was part of the purity movement. It totally influenced me. So evangelical folks will, from the time their children can speak, teach them to say their prayers. And part of my nightly prayers included asking forgiveness of my sins. And I don't know how little children have them, and to ask forgiveness for the sin of being born an Indian, which is what, white folks used to call natives or indigenous folks like myself. So, I was also raised by people who believed only white people can go to heaven. So, when I was really little, I was pretty terrified because I was raised believing that by my bloodline meant I would go to hell. This actually is a large part of what gave me the strength to reject Christianity. I know not all Christians are as outright racist as as evangelicals, but I don't think that gives any form of Christianity a pass, as every Christian church were involved either directly or indirectly in colonialism, in residential schools, and we often like to blame residential schools on the Catholic and Anglican and United churches, but folks from other churches still worked at them as part of their missions. So you're all guilty of genocide. When I was 15, I left my scoop home to find other Indigenous people, particularly adults. I went off to Oka to help with supplies. And I met Indigenous folks there and in my own community and from other communities. And the Algonquin folks where I lived took responsibility in re-raising me. I was still a child, and I think that had a lot of benefits. And so those adults who took me under their wing spiritually and culturally, they helped me unpack the racism and the white supremacy and the Christianity from my first upbringing. And it has 100% influenced my future. From there, as I got older, I continued on the path of an activist. I started on at 15, and I came to learn to speak on issues of decolonization and unpacking anti-Indigenous racism and white supremacy and the ties between colonialism and the racisms experienced by various peoples of the world majority. So that definitely all was influenced by the horrors I was raised under. What am I manifesting for the future? You know, culturally, I was re-raised to understand that the future we should be working towards is for the future of 7 generations. I'm working with my landmates and others on creating a housing land trust here. And this new granny flat I am in that is coming together. And I will do a tour when it's complete. That's part of it. We want to create a decolonial space where all of our world majority children can have a space to be raised in more decolonial understandings and do something like that for their future. One of my children is working to become a linguist, and another is working in the land back area through activism and community organizing work. And that's the future I've been manifesting and working on for a long time. And at this stage of my life, it's really nice to see concrete things happening towards our hopes and dreams for a future that comes after us. Do you have a favorite season? What time of year makes you feel most authentic? You know, adding authentic in made this a call out because I would have probably answered autumn because I think it's the most beautiful of the seasons. I think winter in some parts of it is beautiful. Spring is beautiful, but I live my biggest life in the summer when it's warm and my body feels good, and I can be in water when it's not too cold, because some parts of the summer I still really find too cold to be in water. I have arthritis in my hands and my feet and my shoulders, and the Ontario winters hurt a fair bit. Do I have a favorite color? So I am not good at favorites. My top favorite 3 colors, which I like together, are shell pink, turquoise blue, and brown, like sand color brown. So think a warm beach, not a beach up here, a warm southern beach. So the other part of this is, do you feel this is your aura color? If not, what do you think your aura color is? I have no idea. I don't really think about it. I don't do auras. So the 8th question is, do you have a job, career, lifestyle? And then it went on a bit. I've rephrased it to just, do you have a job, career, lifestyle? What do you do? It talked about it talked about profit and financial support and who cares? So I think we all have jobs and things we do in this life, and some of us are paid for them by the capitalist system, and some of us are not. I currently am paid by the capitalist system to work as a tarot reader on the hotline. I'm also currently making my 3rd tarot deck. It's just a weird question. I don't know. It's kind of like how I feel about the way the question was originally phrased. It's like it's a very capitalist question. As an indigenous, I'm anti-capitalist. Indigenism is indigenous anarchy, which is definitely very different than Eurocentric or Euro-philosophic anarchy. It's a weird question. It's like, as a homeschooler, something I've noticed is publicly schooled children will say to other children when they meet them, "What grade are you in? How old are you?" Because school has taught them that that's a definitive answer to whether or not somebody can be one of your friends. And when adults are like, "What do you do for a living? How do you make money?" I'm always like, that is very weird. Because for many folks, it does not define them. And it's also weird because actually Abby the Witch talks about being a housewife, which is an unpaid job, career, lifestyle. I don't know. Sorry, it was a weird question. What are some things that make me a unique individual? Some things that make me a unique individual. I think we all like to think we're all super unique, and we are, but it's really so hard to define because I don't do anything that nobody else does. I'm an artist. That's something you know. I love to write. I love to draw. I love to do poetry. I love to speak. I got it. So here's something I created. So I think that's close to unique. I am Indigenous power. I am not your perceptions. To these waters, I gift Indigenous femininity, unafraid, learning, leading, loving, crying, healing, sexual but not sexualized. Identity uncolonized, undefined, unanswerable in the path of the deer. Love shared, circular, intertwining like our hair. Our outward soul expression. So the next part is a poem that lasts 3 pages. I will read this. I wrote this a few years ago, so and then it got an update the following year. So the year aspects are slightly different. This is a poem called I Am. I am 195 years since first contact, 195 words below, resistance 151. I'm Indigenous, Native, Indian, First Nations. I'm all your words and then some. I'm Lakota, Cajun, half-breed. I'm still full Native. You can't divide me. I survived one of America's most rampant assimilation policies. You say that makes me less than. Wrong. I survived. It makes me all that I am. You stat me in programs, reports, surveillance, violence, poverty, mental health, and more. Yes, I've unwillingly appeared in them all as colonialism attacked me time and time again. I hear you call out divisive, incendiary, radical. You want to say angry Indian, but you can't. So other words fill in. I love, cry, hope, riot, dance, and pray. And I am angry. I want to release it. I want you to see it, feel it. When you do, it hurts and you silence me. You silence my anger with all your descriptions. Poor, uneducated, single mom, broken, angry, off-res, blaming, lack of responsibility. Oh, the irony. You want to reconcile me? I'm unreconcilable, ungovernable, uncontrollable. I'm Indigenous, Lakota, Cajun, mother, sister, angry, hopeful, powerful, regaining my language, taking my stand. This isn't radical, it's called self-defense. So that was I Am. And 195 years since first contact is in reference to the number of years since my nation had first contact. And then here we go, one more. Indigenous humanity unsheathed, rhythmic prayers of dance, love, and expression naturally, Wopia. So that is something created by me in 2018 on April 16th. So that's something about me that makes me an individual and one of the many creative pursuits I enjoy. One advice when you give your younger self, you know, this is hard because my younger self made a lot of really hard, brave choices that allowed me to choose a different future. And I wouldn't change any of those things. What I would change is I would have cut cold ties to my Scoop family permanently, much younger, possibly when I first left. That should have been the end of them. Favorite interests, hobbies outside of witchcraft. We kind of covered that throughout this. I'm a poet, I'm an artist, I'm also a seamstress. Maybe I can shoot up some pictures in here. One of the things I love to do is applique art for powwow. So these are ribbon skirts that I've made for folks in my community. This is a full regalia that I did. Sometimes I do indigenous art via applique that I sell. This is another ribbon skirt. This one's a missing and murdered indigenous peoples ribbon skirt. These are 3 regalias I made for youth in the community back in the day. Some indigenous applique art that I sold for a fundraiser. Oh, and yeah, I also do stick and poke tattoo. That's pretty cool, I guess. You know, outside of witchcraft, my witchcraft is what I would describe as indigenous folkcraft. And so as a result, it really does make it much of my everyday lived practices of what I do. Most of it can be tied to my spiritual, political, or social understandings as an indigenist, which informs my craft. All right, talk to y'all later, folks.